While we do our best to keep these episodes fun and informative, during any discussion show you're going to sometimes hit on difficult issues. In this episode, we touch on topics of abuse tactics, child abuse, and child neglect.
Today on Watchers of Tomorrow, we encounter real ultimate power.
Hello, I am Gepwin. Welcome to Watchers of Tomorrow. I am joined as always by my good friend Dr. Isix.
Hi.
And today, well, a couple days ago for us, I guess, we watched Charlie X, the second episode of the original Star Trek series run.
Wait a moment. Why do they call it X? This is the 10th episode. Come on.
I don't know why they call it X. Because I don't know where to put alternate names, because there were some better alternate names for this episode, I think, as there have been so far.
Just how they seem to pick the kind of nonsensical or lame ones, so...
Yes, always. So we're on episode 2. This episode was made 8th, so actually after the one that we watched last week.
Wait. The 8th episode... Second in show order.
Yes.
This is like Microsoft version conditions, isn't
and
it?
Don't even get me started on BBC run order.
Oh dear.
This was actually dramatized for television by Dorothy C. Fontana, who is the later story editor for Star Trek, the original series, seasons 1 and 2, and also helped write the original pilot for Star Trek Next Generation.
Ah, yes. Encounter at the Farpoints.
So this is the first episode that was dramatized, or at least partially written, by Dorothy C. Fontana, who will be a mainstay for a while here.
I guess there is some similarities to what's going on in this episode to Encounter at Farpoint. A very overpowered sort of fashion.
It's a very interesting point. And this episode, we guest star Robert Walker as the titular Charlie.
Yes, but not the Robert Walker that, is attached to Channel Awesome. That's a different guy.
Yes, not that one. This is a different one who was, I believe, 25 at the time of shooting this, which is interesting for reasons we'll get into a little bit later.
Yes.
So, synopsis. Captain's log. The Enterprise has rendezvoused with cargo vessel Antares. Its captain and first officer are beaming aboard with an unusual passenger.
How unusual was he?
Quite unusual. All the way to the ground. I don't know. I just thought of a bad joke from like the 40s, and the punchline popped into my head for no reason.
See, Gepwin's actually a time traveler, just so everyone knows.
Yes. Good to get these backstory things out of the way early.
I know, right?
The two Antares officers beam aboard with the teenager introduced as Charlie Evans.
Yes. Also, there's a piece of luggage there. I noted that down.
Yes. Also, some sort of duffel bag thing.
It's important. Actually, it's not.
We never see it again, but its journey shall be glorified in song and story.
Forever onward.
We are told that Charlie has survived for years on an uninhabited planet after his ship crashed there, killing everyone but himself.
Yes, he is a bit of a castaway.
The two officers look visibly shaken as they trip over themselves to explain how amazing Charlie is.
Yeah, he's just the best, guys.
Yes, he's the best teenager in the world.
Of all time, forever.
They refuse any and all hospitality from Captain Kirk.
Yep, they're like, we just kind of want to go.
They run to the transporter. Yeoman Rand, who we remember from the Man Trap episode.
Yes, where she was creeped on a lot.
Yes, this is a theme. We're getting into some themes.
Yes. It seems to happen, a lot in the, these couple episodes here.
I actually have in my notes, Charlie continues the tradition of staring at her awkwardly.
He's all like, are you like a girl? I've not met a girl before. This is neat. I'm like, when that bit came up, I'm like, come on. There's no women on the Antares? It looks like only like a quarter the size of the Enterprise, sure, but That's still gonna be like 40 people, right?
Yes, apparently, 20. They said it was 20 people
Oh,
on the crew of
okay.
the Antares. Oh, yes, he asks if she is a girl, and Kirk confirms that that is in fact true. So, good on Kirk.
Kirk can identify people.
At that dramatic point, we go into credits.
Do, 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 do.
In the second captain's log, we find more information about Charlie, that he has been marooned on the planet for 7 years, since the age of 3.
I think it's like I think it's more than 7 years, but
Yes,
he's like supposed to be like 17.
He's 17. So if I did math,
Yeah, it'd be like 14.
yes, so 14 years. So he's been he's been alone on a planet. I'm not trying to say that word anymore. He's been alone on the planet since he was the age of 3. And Kirk is surprised that he has grown into a healthy adolescent child.
Who can also speak perfect English.
Yes.
That's a little weird.
We cut to sickbay, where Charlie is lying on the bed with his feet up in some sort of stirrupy wall-mounted pedal thing. I don't know how to describe it, but it is awkward.
It's his future medical equipment. We don't have to understand. It'll make sense when we're really old.
I'm sure. McCoy expresses surprise that Charlie was able to survive on a planet alone with only the supplies on the ship. Charlie says that he just started eating things that happened to grow on the planet, and that he learned to talk from talking to the ship's computer.
Hello, computer.
Which is actually kind of an interesting literary callback to Tarzan, who taught himself to read from books that were on the ship when his parents crashed in Africa.
Like Tarzan, but different.
McCoy tells Charlie that he is 4-0. Charlie was confused by this. I was also confused by this because I had to look up this idiom.
Yes, there's all old sort of military sort of terminology for like getting into the army and drafted and stuff, right?
I found that it was a reference to grade point averages, but
Oh,
I have no idea which of those is true.
maybe I'm thinking about something else. Never mind, ignore me.
McCoy explains the idiom. Idioms are never brought up again. I mentioned this because I thought this might be a thing, that Charlie doesn't understand turns of phrase, but apparently that's completely unimportant and irrelevant and was basically a waste of our time, and now it's been a waste of your time, so you're welcome.
Later, it would have been maybe useful if we'll talk this certain way so that he doesn't really catch on what we're expressing to each other, and that'd be kind of cool, but they don't really do that, so spoilers.
Charlie expresses that the people on the other ship did not like him, and that he wants the people on this ship to like him.
Yes, so the people over there were jerk faces.
McCoy quips that most 17-year-olds do.
Love me, please.
McCoy says he's going to show Charlie to his quarters, but apparently that means let him wander around the ship unescorted.
Yeah, I'm going to go bother this guy. He's like putting a pipe into a grate and then go climb through this Jeffries tube or something. And
yes,
it's great.
And so there is this is a long scene.
Mm-hmm.
This is not a short little, some people doing things. They spend a good minute and a half on a guy putting a tube down into a hole in the floor and Charlie awkwardly staring at him do so.
It's like, this is really enamoring, isn't it?
Yes. Symbolism, perhaps?
Unfortunately, we don't got Phil Brain here to go, symbolism, but,
All right. He climbs out of a wall tube, where 2 other men also climb out of the wall tube. He sees the men talk to each other, discussing meeting later in the recreation room. The one says, "You've got a deal, friend," and slaps the other one on the butt. That's something men do, apparently.
It's the future.
Yes.
That's how it is in the future.
The man who is still there seems surprised Charlie is there, even though he just came out of the maintenance tube with them.
I was like, are you guys just blind? This is really kind of awkward for you to be just now noticing he was around.
Yeah, and I know I'm spending a lot of time on this, but you have no idea how awkward these 2 scenes were. Just if you haven't watched the episode, these are the 2 most awkward scenes in the entire thing, and that is saying something.
Given what else is up.
Yes. On the bridge, McCoy and Spock are discussing Thasians. Spock apparently believes that they are a thing that exists, and that Charlie is lying about having seen them.
He has a world of lies, you see. Sorry.
Spock is working out a training program for Charlie on Earth history and science, but Kirk wants McCoy to give him medical orientation on the problems of adolescence. McCoy says Kirk should do it as a strong father figure. Kirk says, no, I'm not doing it. That's your job. I'm the captain. Shut up.
No. Kirk doing this refusal is actually maybe him being very self-aware, given how some of the later conversations go.
Yes. Though this is, spoilers, but this is the first time in this episode that they have awkwardly avoided even saying sex talk.
Yep.
Like this is just an episode filled with grown men being awkward about sex. And we can say it because we're like in the enlightened thousands here, not back in 1960.
We are in the future.
Cut to recreation room 6. Nope, I skipped a bit. Where did I skip a bit?
He ran into the yeoman again.
Yes. I've apparently that part of my notes got completely... There we go.
Yes.
So we see Yeoman Rand coming out of her quarters. She runs into Charlie, who stares creepily at her and then runs after her, saying that he got her a present. He gives her a bottle of green liquid that she says is her favorite. We are never told what this is.
Yeah, it's just something.
And that they didn't have any in the ship's stores. In the transcript that I used to compile these, it referenced this as perfume, which seems likely. But her saying that they don't have any in the ship's stores means that they just have stores of women's perfume on board, which I thought was interesting.
Well, it's probably like basic deodorant, but perfume, that'd be a little weird, I guess.
Rand says that she has to leave. And when Charlie wants to talk more, she says that she can meet him after her shift in the recreation room. Now, in a callback to the scene that we had earlier, Charlie quotes the man, says, "We'll see you then, friend," and then proceeds to slap her on the behind.
And she's just having none of that.
Yes, she is very upset. She tells Charlie that it's not okay and tells him to ask Kirk or McCoy about it. This is when we have the scene on the bridge that I read out of order. I apologize. I could fix it in post, but I'm lazy.
It's okay. I forgive you. I was actually worried I had got my notes out of order.
Well, I actually just skipped a whole paragraph. Because Spock also says that Charlie, having survived on the planet, implies that there must be an intelligent life form there to keep him alive. So, we cut to Recreation Room 6.
Where there's Spock again.
Yes, we see Spock. He is playing some sort of harp thing. This is the Vulcan harp that seems to appear throughout most of the series. Uhura and Rand are playing cards at a table.
I didn't pick up what game it was. Maybe it was solitaire.
It looked like solitaire, but they're both playing it.
Yeah, awkward two-person solitaire.
Uhura starts to hum. Spock stops playing his instrument and looks very annoyed.
Well, he almost kind of smiles at one point, but this is kind of coming off as mildly annoyed.
Yes. Uhura apologizes for humming again. Apparently this is something that happens a lot. Spock then gives her a come hither look and begins playing a different song. Uhura,
I think it's really 60s.
Uhura starts singing an odd sort of racist song about Spock's ears and his heart-stealing abilities.
And Spock just keeps playing along. It's really kind of what?
Yes. Charlie then enters. After she sings this song about Spock, Charlie enters and she begins singing a song about Charlie. Charlie uses a power of awkward staring to make the harp and Uhura stop making noises. They're
just suddenly silenced.
Yes, no one seems to think this is unusual.
Well, they probably run into wizards before, it's not a very advanced spell, just a couple levels up, right?
It's just a space wizard. It's fine. Yeah. He then asks if Rand wants to see some card tricks.
Ooh, would you like to see a magic trick?
He flips 3 cards on the table that now, instead of having numbers, have pictures of Rand on them.
It's like he also has figured out magic tricks involving cameras,
yes,
and photo shoots and secret, sound stages to take glamour shots of people.
I know it's a really good trick.
Yes.
He then throws one of the cards away, stares at Rand, who then removes the card from her bra.
Not awkward at all, is it?
Yes, and okay, so I get this is future magic tricks. But he just did 2 almost completely impossible things. No one cares.
Yep. It's like, well, that's neat.
Like, I know this is like some magician stuff. You don't know, but like the woman who has the card down her shirt knows it's there. Like, it doesn't just suddenly appear there and she like thinks that's fine.
Wait, are you suggesting that Rand and Charlie are in cahoots the whole time?
That's an interesting spin on this. It's just a magic duo.
You see, obviously secretly between the scene where she was really pissed at him and this scene, all like 5 minutes that is, they've worked out a magic show together, and now they're going to take it on the road, and the entire Enterprise crew is going to be, going to go out there, and it's like, you should really check out these guys. They're like pretty awesome. They can pull all this weird stuff, and it's like, you think that they hate each other. Well, maybe they do, but they seem to work well together. They do all this crazy stuff. Just watch.
Yes, it's his new magic career.
Yes.
Cut to the captain telling the cook that it is Thanksgiving.
Surprise!
Hooray. And if the crew has to eat synthetic meatloaf,
again,
it should at least look like turkey. This is important, I promise. Charlie then finds Kirk and asks him why he shouldn't slap a woman on the ass.
Well, when a girl and a boy really like each other, they take that into the bedroom.
Yes.
Anyway,
but he doesn't actually know how to describe it, so he demonstrates on Kirk.
And Kirk's like, okay.
Yes. Kirk awkwardly tries to explain in some ums and uhs and women and men. Ends on, there's no right way to hit a woman.
I can respect that.
I guess it's not bad.
It's a good try.
But unlike man to man, that's one thing. But man to woman, that's another thing. You understand? Charlie looks very confused and says no. Because of course not, Kirk. That was awful.
Yeah, you're really bad at this, as I brought up earlier. Just stop while you're ahead, Kirk. Hand it off to McCoy.
This was like the second scene of Kirk being super awkward about sex talk.
Yep.
The 2 and counting.
Wait a moment. Could it be that Kirk never got to talk himself?
Probably. It seems like. Kirk is saved by the bell because the Antares is calling, and he says that he's going to come to the bridge. Charlie awkwardly tags along.
Charlie, why are you following me to the bridge again?
Yeah.
Dang it.
The Antares says that they have to speak to Kirk, and they have to warn him, but then are suddenly cut off.
Kabloomers!
As they try to raise the Antares again, Charlie says that the ship was not very well constructed.
It was a terrible ship, and everything was awful there.
Yes.
Leave me!
Spock scans for the Antares and finds only debris. The ship's galley then calls to inform Kirk that they put meatloaf in the ovens, but real turkeys have come out.
Wow, it's a Thanksgiving miracle.
Charlie laughs and runs off the bridge. Interesting little thing here. The galley officer who calls the bridge is an uncredited voiceover by Gene Roddenberry.
Huh.
Back in the rec room, Spock and Kirk are playing three-dimensional chess.
Is this the first time the 3D chess has come up?
In this run, it depends on what order you're watching the episodes. For us, yes.
Oh, true, yes.
I was just reading about how they aired them in completely different orders in like every country that they aired them in. So we're working off the American run.
Yeah, we've got to figure out which one works for this country. What do they like here? Well, we like aliens. Well, we'll have the alien episode first. How about over you guys? We'll have the one with the superpowered and the mind bullets, and okay, get this episode. How about you guys? The ones with the Cold War metaphors. Well, we'll go with that one. Okay.
Spock suggests Kirk's mind is not on the game because of all those people who just died.
Yeah, just a little bit of death between friends. What's got you distracted, man?
Spock suggests that Charlie may have had something to do with the ship exploding.
Oh, you think?
But is interrupted by Charlie, who enters the room.
It's like he knows when people are thinking about him.
Kirk checkmates Spock, which Spock finds mildly surprising.
Did you cheat, Captain? No, he didn't like to say that, but he probably did.
Yeah, he probably did. Kirk asks if Charlie would like to play and then leaves him alone with Spock. Spock tries to explain how the game works, but Charlie is just too impatient and wants to play.
Let's play, man. It's like, okay.
Spock then beats him in 4 moves.
Yes, in my notes I put down, Spock utterly destroys him forever.
Yeah, basically. Spock leaves. Charlie stares at the board, and then all of the white pieces have melted.
Melting.
And I'm sorry, I hate getting into nitpicky stuff. This is such an awkward shot. It zooms out. You look at the board, you can kind of see something's wrong with the board, and then they realize you can't see what's wrong with the board, so they zoom in again to show you the pieces melted.
This is a terrible shot. Do it again, but different.
Charlie runs off and bumps into Yeoman Rand, who is with a younger woman who she introduces as Tina.
Oh my, Yeoman Tina?
Yes.
Wait, is that her last name or her first name?
That's her first name because my spell corrector apparently got to her last name, and I don't know what it was offhand now. Possibly Latin. Tina Latin? That sounds about right. Let's go with that. Rand says that she thought Charlie would like to meet a woman his own age. Charlie tells her to beat it because she is not interesting to him. He just wants to talk to Rand.
A little creepy again, but I guess it's about preferences to a degree.
Yes. Rand tells him that he has to learn to live with people. But he tells her that when he looks at her, he is hungry all over.
Hungry like the wolf.
Yeah, very similar.
It's kind of like, Rand, I think it's time for you to run away.
Yeah, well, apparently she does, because we immediately cut to her on the bridge. Rand tells the captain that Charlie has a crush on her, and that he needs to do something about it before she has to reject him outright and hurt him.
Now, when I first saw that scene when she says, like, I don't want to hurt him, and like, wait, you get to like karate chop him or something? Oh, like rejection. Okay, yeah.
Like with the emotions, Isix. People have
emotions.
Sorry,
I've been kind of kung fu lately. It happens.
Kirk confronts Charlie later in his quarters. He asks him about the melted chess pieces, which Charlie denies any knowledge of. Kirk tells Charlie that he needs to stop creeping on Rand.
And so we get the third attempt at the talk.
Charlie goes on a rant about always being wrong, which I want you to remember because I want to get back to this at the end when we're doing our thoughts. Kirk says that he is just being a teenage boy, and that this is normal for a teenage boy, but he has to go slowly with his creepiness because women sometimes also have feelings that matter, maybe.
Yes.
Charlie is upset that Rand won't love him, and Kirk tells him that there are things in the universe that you can have and things that you can't have, and you just have to get used to it, young man.
Deal with it.
A horrible father figure. Just awful.
Yeah, it's like, okay, you're obviously coming on a little strong, kid. You need to, like, ease it back. If she is interested in you when you make a reasonable attempt to show your interest, then you can proceed. If not, then you just have to deal with it, kid.
Yeah.
You can't force someone to love you.
Charlie asks what he's supposed to do about it, and Kirk tells him to just hold on tight and survive. When he says that he doesn't know how, Kirk takes him to the ship's gym.
All right, so we're going to hold on to survive by showing you how to fight.
Yes. We cut to the gym where there are two men auditioning for American Gladiator. Yeah, that's an old joke.
We also got shirtless Kirk going on here.
Yes, there are also some women doing random gymnastic flips through an archway, which was just too weird not to mention. We cut to Kirk in very tight pants and no shirt.
It was a little awkward.
And he is teaching Charlie how to do judo falls. Interestingly enough, these are actually accurate, but explained incredibly badly.
Like, you learned how to do this. Why don't you just repeat what you learned?
Charlie is frustrated and just wants to start. So Kirk demonstrates some on random crewman named Sam, who was off in the corner doing some sort of wall exercises.
Yes, our possibly short-lived random extra of the episode is named Sam.
Played by one of the show's stuntmen.
Well, I guess it kind of makes sense because there is some throws here.
Yes, he throws him, shows him that it's not that hard. And then Kirk starts to grapple with Charlie, who, of course, loses. Sam starts laughing. Charlie tells him to stop laughing and then makes him disappear with his mind.
Suddenly, Sam was vaporized.
Yep.
So he was very short-lived.
Kirk asks for a security team, but seems otherwise very unconcerned that a crewman just was vaporized in front of his eyes.
No, we haven't even really established that this sort of thing just happens constantly. But he's just like, yeah, whatever.
Apparently it does just happen constantly. The security team enters and Charlie makes them fall down, which is better, I guess.
Yep.
Then he disappears their phaser.
Oh, it gets better later.
Kirk demands that he go to his room, and he does.
Go to your room, young man.
I guess he's supposed to be such a strong father figure that Charlie just listens to him.
It's like, I'm going to use my force of will to encourage you to go do something, and this this sort of assumes that the parent-child dynamic is just something that exists for all people.
Apparently,
But
yes. By
yeah, that doesn't really make any sense though.
I don't know. Just because it's a grown man and a younger man.
I guess the thinking of the time, I guess, is sort of just
Yeah.
on massive display here.
Kirk is informed by intercom that all of the phasers have disappeared from the ship.
Oh no!
This is never brought up again.
I guess it just means they can't just randomly phaser people.
Yeah, so I guess that explains why they don't try to shoot him. So I guess that works out. Back in the conference room, Spock's little pet project, the Thesians, apparently had similar mental abilities to what Charlie has.
Oh my. Maybe there's a connection there.
But McCoy says that Charlie is definitely human because his fingers and toes match up.
Oh, I guess that's a good start, but that's not as far as it goes, Doc.
I know. I guess, 10 fingers, 10 toes, human.
Like, what about Klingons? They got 10 fingers at least.
You don't know how many toes a Klingon's got.
Oh, maybe that's the trick. Every other species has like 4 on each foot, and humans are the weird ones.
Yeah. We don't even know Klingons exist yet at this point. Kirk goes on about how Charlie is a teenager. He's just a boy. He doesn't even know that he killed 12 people. He doesn't even know what life is because he's just a boy.
Mm-hmm. Kirk, I think you're naive.
Yes.
It's obvious that this kid he understands what life is. He just doesn't care.
Yeah.
It kind of implies he's kind of a sociopath.
A little bit, and especially by 17.
Yeah.
You're like, empathy stuff starts kicking in when you're a very young child.
And sure, he's been isolated,
Which
supposedly,
would
on this planet.
do this, so
Yeah. So maybe there is some inherent damage, but there is still going to be the natural instincts unless he does have the sort of the mental divergence there.
Well, we can get into that in a minute because I do think that's an important thing to get into later once we hit the end with his planet here. Oh, McCoy tells Kirk that he is an authority that Charlie respects and he can use that to control him. Charlie enters, tells them that yes, he is responsible for the ship exploding, but he excuses it because it wasn't built well anyway and they were mean to him.
Yeah, they were jerk faces anyway.
Yeah, it would have blown up by itself.
Just because.
Ah.
It's not like they have engineers on that ship or something.
Spock then says they are in the hands of an adolescent, and they fade out. Kirk orders Uhura to contact the colony that they're bringing Charlie to, and for the navigator to change course. Neither of them can do so because Uhura's console blows up in her face, and the helm is not responding to commands.
And Uhura's like just only mildly upset by this.
Yeah, it's like, it shouldn't do that. I just checked it for doing that.
It's like, any other time a console explodes, it's like, oh, we've lost 12 red shirts. Oh, dear. Oh my.
Yeah, well, it didn't explode very much.
Oh, yeah.
It's just a little explosion.
Just a mild explosion for a mild reaction.
We're going to get into this more as the episodes go on, but whoever designed these consoles needs to be sued.
Yep.
Charlie enters the bridge and makes Spock read poetry.
Something about tigers and ravens later, right?
Yes, he does Poe's Ravens. He does the tiger poem that I can sometimes remember, and I think something made up.
Yeah, I didn't catch the third one, so.
Yeah, I think one of them is like an alien poem.
An alien poem from Neo-Vulcan movements. I don't know.
Oh, actually, I have it up on my Wikipedia page. It says it is the tiger and the raven. Okay. Charlie tells them that they aren't allowed to change course. Kirk confronts him and makes him leave the bridge. Go to your room again.
And he's just like, okay, I guess you have real ultimate power, but you do just kind of back down
really fast.
Raise my voice.
But Spock says that Charlie will reach a point soon where he won't back down anymore.
Done.
Charlie leaves and runs into the young woman from earlier, who he turns into an iguana.
Hooray! She now can live out her life as an iguana, and everything will be carefree forever.
With knowing how they treat women on this ship, she's probably better off.
Yeah.
He walks into Rand's room carrying a rose, saying he wants her.
Like, okay, kid, this is an awkward first date, but how about no?
Yeah. Rand sneakily activates the intercom so that everyone can hear her yelling at Charlie in her room. Kirk and Spock enter and are thrown away by Charlie's mind.
Ooh. Oh, yeah, I think I forgot the door where he was like demanding about her not locking the door and things like that.
Yeah, some real abuse tactic stuff. Like, don't lock the door on me.
Yeah, I've run into folks who, growing up, were in a situation where they had like a one or more of their parents were basically no doors can be locked to this house, no doors can be even shut. We have to be able to see you at all times forever. And that's like kind of psycho.
Yeah, it's some actual like abuse tactic things.
Mm-hmm.
This is bad. Very, very bad.
Yeah, this is a do not want sort of situation.
Yes. Rand then slaps Charlie, who then makes her disappear, saying that she wasn't nice.
Oh, great. One of our like named characters is now like with like a first and last name is now vaporized.
She's got 2 names and a rank sometimes. Says that Kirk wasn't nice either, but that he needs Kirk because the Enterprise is just too complicated for him to run all by himself.
And then there's Spock there, sitting down, it seems.
Yes.
But it's worse than that.
They then, it says that his legs are broken, and then they're not broken later.
Well, Kirk sort of demands that Charlie, give him Spock, like heal him so that Spock can help him, because it's a really complicated ship, guys.
Yeah, you need 2 people to run it and everything.
Yes, and one of them has to be a Vulcan.
I was distracted because they just kind of then randomly, for no reason, cut to a random hallway. Mm-hmm. Where they just randomly, for no reason, have Charlie walk into a room that is apparently a trap they planned.
Surprise electric force field.
Yes, Charlie then makes the entire wall disappear.
It's like, oh, you want to trap me in here? Well, goodbye, wall.
Yes.
Oh.
Not this was just they didn't show us them planning this, and neither of them thought that the guy who can just make random things happen could get out of a force field. Yeah.
It's like, well, I guess our technology isn't going to work this time, guys.
Has it ever?
Not so far.
He freezes Kirk and Spock in place and tells them that they'll be sorry. He then rampages randomly around the ship. He passes a woman who he just angrily causes to age into an old woman.
You're not old. Well, this kind of sucks.
He passes some people laughing in the hallway. He tells them to stop. They freeze, and then a woman like stumbles out without a face.
Kind of creepy.
Yeah, it's creepy. Also, so far he has randomly attacked 3 people. All of them have been young women. He's disappeared 1 guy and 1 woman, but the random rampage, all young women.
It's kind of obvious Charlie has issues, but at this point it kind of makes you wonder, do other people in this production have issues?
Yeah.
Or is this just, once again, this is the 60s, it's like that. It's kind of awful.
It's probably a bit of both. On the bridge, Charlie is at the helm. Uhura says they're receiving a message, but she can't hear it, and Charlie looks concerned.
Wonder what that's about.
He then continues randomly running through hallways. He bumps into someone, but apparently doesn't want to kill her.
This time.
Kirk says he wants to take Charlie on. McCoy and Spock tell him that he's dumb.
Because that is kind of dumb.
Yes. Kirk randomly leaps to the conclusion that Charlie has overextended his power by taking over the ship, and that they could just overwhelm him if they turned on everything at the same time.
So we turn on the vending machine, we turn on the ping pong, automated scoreboard on the wall in the rec room. I guess, this is a spaceship. Everything should be on anyway.
Probably. Charlie comes in and sits in the captain's chair, which really tees off Kirk.
Now you're going to die.
Yes. Kirk tries to come at him, but he, makes him pain again. Mm-hmm. But apparently this is enough for the Doctor and Spock to go over to the other consoles and start turning on everything.
Turn on all the systems.
Yes. Charlie then does look hurt, but he keeps paining Kirk. But then the message comes through. The message from earlier. A ship from Thanos appears, the planet that Charlie was on. It's this weird green-looking ship.
That's all woogly and such.
Yeoman Rand reappears.
Like, hey, I'm back. Oh, Sam, we don't know.
And Charlie starts begging the crew not to let the Thasians take him. The Wizard of Oz appears.
Yeah, so the big giant green head shows up.
Yes. He says that he has taken the form that he had eons ago so that he can better talk to them.
AKA, he was a giant green floating head
Yes,
eons ago.
apparently. So, yes. Charlie continues to beg, saying that he doesn't want to go back there. It's horrible there. They can't even touch him. He's just been living alone for years, and it's been horrible, and he'll be good if they let him stay. Kirk says that Charlie does belong with his own kind, and maybe if they raise him right and teach him how to control himself, he won't use his powers to destroy.
And the aliens are like, nope.
Yeah, the aliens go, nope, we gave him the power. He's going to use the power. We're out. And then they abduct Charlie. Charlie's yelling and screaming and going, no, 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 don't let them take me. Rand even tries to run to him, and Kirk holds her back.
Like, what? Girl, he's dangerous and he's a creeper. No,
Yeah.
let the crazy aliens from beyond space and time take him away from you forever, so you're safe.
Yes. They do take him away. He disappears. The Thasian ship leaves. They tell them that everything is back to normal. I may have gotten some of that a little out of order, but you get the point. Everyone on the bridge looks sad.
It's like, well, we're depressed.
Yes.
We're alive, but we're depressed.
Kirk tells Rand that it is all over now, and we zoom out and fade away.
Do, 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 do.
And that is Charlie X.
Mm-hmm. And oh my.
Oh my.
Oh my.
So, last episode, we started with themes of women hating and general misogyny.
Mm-hmm.
This episode, we did not get better.
More of the same.
Huzzah!
Oh dear. Oh dear. Yeah. As I sort of hinted at the end of the previous episode, podcast here, I was not looking forward to this episode because of this kind of stuff. It's like, okay, you kind of got the silliness with an overpowered person of some sort, but he's also really creepy all the time.
Yeah, and intentionally so.
Yeah,
because apparently the actor who played Charlie stayed in his dressing room the entire production, so as not to become familiar with the rest of the cast, so that he would appear awkward and weird.
Yeah. Method acting.
Yeah, so it was very intentional. They really don't make him seem likable even slightly, which I don't know. It's a weird one because it's not done very well. But from what the stuff that they're saying of being neglected on an alien planet without being able to touch people or have a good environment growing up, it would create a probably horrible psychopath.
A little bit, yeah. It's like, well, I have no real human contact here. I just got these weird aliens that seem to be talking to me occasionally and give me mental powers. Am I just going crazy or what?
Yeah, but that's weirdly undermined by the end where they just say, no, he's definitely just, evil and like this. It's totally not a product of his environment that could be changed at all.
But I guess to a degree, at the end, I will give Kirk props for sort of trying to be, meet the ideal of, he can learn, he can become better.
Yeah, they kind of try a little.
But it's sort of kind of a little too late situation to try to go that angle.
Yeah, a little bit. And I feel like this is just kind of continuing theme with these two episodes so far, is they do a bunch of random space adventure stuff, and then right at the end of the episode, they go but wait, there was a moral dilemma. Oh, darn.
Or was there?
Yeah. This was kind of an interesting one. So, super awkward sex talks. I feel like we're possibly actually just a response to the network censors.
Yeah, a little bit. Because okay, we kind of want to have a story about adolescence and growing up, and sort of discovering you're more powerful than you maybe realized. That you were before. And, this is going to be maybe a metaphor, this, that, the other thing. And we're going to have a, sort of a dad figure come in and try to, teach this young person, sort of how to make it in the world and actually maybe grow and, evolve and things like that. Can we have the sex talk? No.
Yeah. You can't talk about sex. So we need to make an episode about being an adolescent and sex, but we can't mention sex.
Yep.
It's kind of an odd one, though. It's an interesting one with how like it's a very kind of teenagers are dangerous episode.
Yeah, which is always kind of a thing that bugs me in some media when it shows up, because teenagers can be kind of erratic sometimes. That's because they are learning. They are trying to acquire that life experience that everyone else has and takes for granted, and sometimes that means they make mistakes. But that doesn't mean they are inherently more dangerous than anyone else. They just lack the wisdom and self-control that other people do.
Yeah, I thought it was a very interesting one for the time period, because something that's a little bit hard to recognize from now is that at this point in the 1960s, teenagers hadn't actually existed for that long.
As far as like a demographic sort of set apart from.
As like a cultural force, teenagers were an invention of the baby boom.
It's like, okay, you're now a child, so you go to school for a few years, and you get to a point where, okay, you're kind of working on the farm, now that's all you do. Hooray, you're an adult now. You're also 12.
Yes. And at this point, we had not only this massive influx of kids who were kind of coming of age right around this point in the 60s. You also had this massive amount of economic prosperity that allowed them to have just a ton of money and jobs and like productive things that they could use as just additional income, because their parents were also well enough off that they didn't have to spend money on the family, so they could like work a job and use that money to like buy cars and things.
Teenagers were able to acquire their own abilities, their own capital.
Yeah, so teenagers very much kind of a new scary thing. And then also the 60s is kind of the cultural revolution, the counterculture, women's liberation, the sexual revolution. So probably, I had trouble finding actual historical information on this one, so this is a little bit of speculation.
Speculate away.
But like, given all of that, it's likely that this is sort of one of the first time periods where the sex talk and things would have been more of a like part of parenthood. Like I found some stuff from earlier on that with the rise of urbanization as opposed to like rural farm living, there had to be like more actual sex education because you weren't learning about it from kind of like animals and farm life.
It's like, well, see those horses? Yeah, Dad. Well, you're gonna do something like that when you get older. With horses? No, nothing like that. With your wife? Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's just it's an interesting one because it's very much a product of its time, but I feel like even for the time, it's done very badly.
Well, maybe they just didn't have really the practice, and the folks making the show are for the most part on the older end of things. They're not teenagers themselves. They haven't quite necessarily gotten the as I sort of mentioned before, Kirk probably didn't have a very good sex talk from the sounds of it. Maybe people involved in the production here didn't either.
Well, they probably didn't, because there's that good old 15 to 20 year lag on like television writing for kids. Because like the TV writers write what happened to them when they were kids, which was 20 years ago.
Oh my! I'm suddenly realizing what kids' TV is going to look like in 20 years.
Oh, that's not. Yeah, don't think about it. It's okay.
Okay.
It's okay.
I'm coming back to the 60s. Okay, we're good.
Yeah, so back to the 60s.
I don't.
I was going to say back to the 60s with the sexism, but that hasn't changed much.
Yeah. Where were we?
Yes. Well, speaking of that, there are several interviews where Grace Lee Whitney, who plays Yeoman Rand, cites this as her favorite episode because she had so much to do.
Well, I guess that's a good thing.
Well, it's an interesting, it's good for the actor because you've got a lot of stuff to do. It does look like it was kind of an interesting one to play, but it also speaks to how little she had to do otherwise.
Yeah, just looking at these first couple episodes, it does seem that she's going to be like kind of a main player for a lot of the series going forward, and that's not really the case.
Yeah, she has been featured very heavily in the first 2 episodes, which was pretty interesting. So there was another sci-fi thing to speak of with this episode, and that is this godchild trope.
Oh, yes.
One of the earlier ones that I actually jumped out to me immediately was the Twilight Zone called "It's a Good Life" from 1953.
That sounds familiar, but I don't think I'm remembering the basics there. So feel free to jam.
Not to go into too many specifics, but it's a Twilight Zone episode featuring a small boy, probably 11-ish, like young child. And he, for some reason, has ultimate godlike power.
Ah, excellent. Oh, is this sort of an echo of what shows up in the Twilight Zone movie?
I actually haven't seen the Twilight Zone movie.
Okay, there's a kid that has godlike powers there too.
This one has like completely isolated his small town. Okay, cut them off from the rest of the universe, basically. Mm-hmm. Everyone in the town has to do exactly what he says because he's a kid with godlike power. So if you tick him off, he turns you into a toy.
Which is kind of terrible, unless you want that sort of fate.
And then just kind of at the end there, he like starts making snow because he thinks it's fun. And there's just kind of a line that's going to kill all the crops. And that's basically the end of the episode.
Like, well, we're starving now. Thanks, our ultimate overlord.
So this is kind of, it's overdone even. So like that was a TV thing from 10 years before this. So God, Power Child.
It's a trope that shows up, and usually it's like, okay, it's just a thing here. I guess it doesn't seem to be bringing a whole lot into the greater conversations. It's like what's the point? Okay, it's spooky, it's kind of scary, it's disturbing, but why?
Yeah, I suppose like with really young kids, it kind of gets into that boss baby territory. Mm-hmm. Of like, look at how much control this really young child has over your life as an adult because you have to now cater to its every need and take care of it. And who's really in charge?
It's like, well, you are technically because you got yourself in the situation.
But like, yeah, it's like fine. Like I suppose not being a parent, I suppose I can't speak exactly to that experience, but it does kind of just have this weird dynamic to it for me of like you're now kind of afraid of your kid.
I don't know. That just seems kind of weird to me. And now to go back, I will point out that I don't mean that everyone who is a parent necessarily wanted it. That there are there is folks that unfortunately have it sort of thrust upon them in other unfortunate ways. But for the majority of folks where it was able to be a choice, it's sort of like, okay, well, you kind of knew all this going into it. Why are you afraid? I just don't get it.
And I appreciate the clarification. I do want to be good with stuff on the show. There's that, and like this was even there was a review that I found where this was like cited as a problem with the episode. They gave it a C ranking for their negative treatment of Yeoman Rand and their use of this godchild trope. And just when they apply it to teenagers, like I understand, maybe I haven't reached that age yet. It does just seem to be a thing to really be mean to teenagers.
Kids these days and their hip hop music and their Pokemons and their socialist revolutions and their flower children and their protesting Vietnam and their not respecting their elders in ancient Greece, all of that.
Yeah, all of that. I appreciate you wrapped them all up into one there. It was pretty good. But yeah, so it's really kind of a like you're afraid that your kid has too much power. I get this as kind of the changeover dynamic, but it's weird how heavily it comes down on Kirk's side as the kind of de facto parent figure.
The de facto but kind of terrible parent figure.
Yeah, the really terrible parent figure, which just over the last couple episodes, it's just been this kind of thing of like, oh, look how great a captain he is. And it's where?
It's like, okay, we need some evidence. Maybe we'll run into that someday.
I hope so. Like he so far hasn't really done much. Both of these, like Kirk hasn't really done much, and the solution to the problem has been really kind of just thrust upon them.
It's like, well, I guess we just kind of deal with the alien, or we wait for these other guys to show up, and then everything is just okay.
Yeah, I know this is an overused phrase nowadays with cinema sins and everything, but like this is like Deus Ex Machina. It's quite literally this god thing shows up and deals with it for them.
Yep.
The wonderful Wizard of Oz took the kid away so they don't have to deal with the problem.
I am Aphasians, the great and powerful.
So this is one of those ones that does bug me a little because it touches on so many things. And I don't think, okay, don't quote me on this, but I don't think that the like psychological ramifications of this kind of neglect were particularly well known to the public yet.
Not really, no.
But there's some interesting stuff to do with that. This kid's been alone on this planet for years, from a very young age, and
you could explore this. You could, really actually educate the viewer about what this will kind of do to people, how it'll mess you up, maybe what the things you'll understand, the things you won't understand, and really sort of explore that space. But instead,
yeah, and they also keep referring to him as a normal teenager. The Kirk has a thing that, if I remember the quote correctly, it's nothing's wrong with you that hasn't gone wrong with every male child since the beginning of time, or since the beginning of the species, possibly. But like they keep referencing how this is just like, oh, teenagers, they're gonna be creepy.
So everyone's been marooned on a distant world, without human contact for a decade or more.
It is the future.
I thought I was the only one.
And, well, yeah, that reminds me. Thank you. His little blow up. Charlie has this little blow up when he's talking to Kirk, and they never really address it. But everything he says is right, because he comes from this like planet. He had to teach himself everything.
Yep.
He's observing people on the ship.
Yep.
He tries to emulate the behavior that he sees on the ship, and he does it wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, normal situation. No one explains to him how to do it right. No one explains it to him at all. And then they continue chastising him for it.
You're being a bad kid. Well, I don't know how to be a bad kid. Well, maybe that's the secret of this episode. It's actually showing how adults can be really kind of terrible to kids.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, let's reframe the entire thing as if you look at it that way, you have Kirk as the really horrible, like, neglectful father figure.
Yep.
Let's call the Thasians Child Protective Services. They come in and take the kid away from him.
Yep.
And to be abused more.
Put her back in. Put him back in the foster system to have terribleness happen.
Yeah, I mean, actually, it could be read very much through that lens. I seriously doubt it was intentional.
Yeah.
But he came out of a bad situation. He was given to these people who don't know how to handle it, and then he's taken back into the bad situation.
They don't sort of phrases like that. It's almost like, well, that seems to make a whole lot more sense than everything else.
It does. I hope they meant to do something with that. I don't know. I don't know. There's just something about the overpowered teenager trope that bothers me, especially when it's this kind of like, if he had just submitted to authority, it would have been fine. It's kind of an Oedipus thing going on with like the teenager challenging the father figure. And so many of these things come down on the side of like, the father figure was right. Look how bad the teenager is.
That's not quite. That's maybe right from the father figure's perspective, but that doesn't make it right.
Which I suppose is who's like coming up with these stories.
Yes.
Like as I mentioned, the screenplay was written by C. Fontana, so it was written for television by a woman. The original story concept was by Gene Roddenberry. I don't know how much either of them brought to it. It's kind of impossible to tell. So it is a little bit mixed whether it was like fully a father figure perspective story or not.
Guess it's going to be lost to the ages, perhaps.
Very probably. Well, I feel like I've just been going on and on about how much I hate the teenager tropes. So did you have anything else you wanted to bring up for this episode?
Well, I was going to sort of, talk about just the concept of, ultimate godlike powers in, Star Trek. Now, they show up from time to time.
Yeah, it is kind of a running theme.
And in fact, another episode which features an awkward teenager who is having a run-in with a obstinate captain, also sort of, with godlike powers, happens many, many years later in Star Trek Voyager. I believe the episode's called Q2. And I'm just sort of thinking sort of how this episode contrasts a whole lot with that one.
Before I saw Charlie X, it was really making me think of the Q2 episode, which is Q's son winds up on Voyager and causes a ton of havoc.
Yes, because Q is like, well, he needs to learn things, so here, you take care of him for a little bit. And Janeway's like, what?
Yeah, they do share a lot of themes because they're both kind of about the general ideas of parenthood and I guess in some ways discipline.
A little bit, yeah. But I think I prefer as kind of awkward as Q2 is, the end lesson is sort of one that's learned by someone learning to empathize with someone. It's like, because Q2, the Q's son ends up, making a friend effectively. And it's like, oh crap, the things I do can actually have consequences, and I need to actually like learn how that kind of works, so I'm not just randomly hurting people.
Yeah, and not to go too much into it, since I guess we won't get to Voyager for like 10, 15 years if we keep up this pace. But the episode is also, like, that episode is much more about the parent figure learning.
Yeah, because, it's both, because Janeway is like, well, I'm not really good for this, but I'll be a captain for him, I guess. And Q is like, I'm not really good at being a dad at all. Yeah, I'm going to kind of learn from this too, but I'm going to be really kind of obstinate about it. Bye.
Yeah, but then at the end, like, it's revealed that, like, Q is the one who came up with the whole plan that got him to learn empathy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like more about Q learning to be a father figure than it is about young Q being a horrible teenager.
Yes.
Though, unfortunately, both episodes feature teenager with superpowers creeping on women.
Yeah.
No matter how far we go, we seem to not be able to get rid of this theme.
It's like, just because someone's a teenager doesn't mean they're necessarily going to, just because someone's a teenager with ultimate, world-bending powers does not necessarily mean they're going to use it to be all, yeah.
Yeah. And and this is another thing too, like, if they do, it's because that was how they were socialized. There's nothing like inherent about being a teenager that makes you do this.
Yes.
So I guess the computer that he had on that ship on the planet was like really bad.
Was it just full of Harlequin romances or something?
It may have been. We don't know what's in these ships' libraries.
It's the future. It could be anything. Actually, I'm kind of now reminding myself of the Hollow Ship episode of Red Dwarf. Yeah, are you familiar with that one?
Not for a long time.
Well, to catch everyone sort of up on it, the general gist is the crew of the Red Dwarf runs into this holographic ship, and one of the guys is trying to basically join the ship because he's also a hologram, and one of the reasons he's sort of wants to join this crew of super humans with IQs in the hundreds and thousands or something like that, is because they believe in one thing: constant, guiltless sex as like the backbone of their society. So maybe that's what's the hidden truth about Star Trek.
It does seem to be, I guess you could just call this episode kind of repressed. It's very obvious there's some things like that they want to be talking about and probably can't because of the censors.
Yes.
Whether this is just a like necessity in avoiding the censors or some kind of like awkwardness that they wanted to portray, it really just winds up as every adult on the ship being awkward about sex.
Mm-hmm. Even Spock.
Very weird, repressed episode. Yeah, just have Spock explain it. Spock can't be embarrassed.
It's like, yes, this is the character that just has no emotion, so he'll be able to explain these things without, making the audience upset because he's an alien. It works, right?
Yes. Well, the fact that we didn't get into this earlier, but so the doctor keeps trying not to explain this to the kid.
McCoy, you're a doctor.
Yeah, what doctor is embarrassed by this?
McCoy, you've probably seen most of the crew naked by now.
You would hope so.
Deal with it.
Maybe the little scanner thingies mean he doesn't have to see the crew naked anymore.
True.
It's possible.
All people that are just superly awkward about human bodies can all become doctors in the future.
Yes, it's I don't know. Maybe there's definitely trying to be some good messaging in these episodes. They're either really held back by their time or they're really held back by their creator, or probably both.
Creator, time, censorship boards, bad luck, limits of special effects, yeah.
The massive combinations of all of those, probably. All right, I feel like we're about to devolve into sex jokes here.
A little bit, so I'm trying to hold back, and let's move on.
All
Quick,
right.
before it's too late.
Well, I feel like we hit on most of the themes, and we've been going for a little over an hour now, so some random facts of the episode, because those are always just fun for me. Alternate names for the episode. Originally pitched as one of the story ideas in the first pitch meeting for the show in general, before the first pilot was even made. Originally pitched as The Day Charlie Became God.
Okay.
Yes. During the writing process, it was known as Charlie's Law.
That actually kind of works, I think.
And this is a reference to a line that was cut from the episode, but later appeared in the novelization of the episode, where Yeoman Rand explains that Charlie's Law is you better be nice to Charlie, or else. Dun dun.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yes, yes. Well, those were my random interesting facts so far, except that they didn't particularly like this episode in reviews.
I can understand why. Well, I guess there's one more thing I wanted to mention is the Thanksgiving, not just because the turkeys end up being important, but because this is the United Federation of Planets and Starfleet and the USS Enterprise in deep space with people from all across human space and Earth, and including some aliens occasionally. Mainly Spock, I think that might be it. But anyway, they have Thanksgiving.
Yeah, not only Earth holiday, but American holiday.
Yes. I guess maybe also Canadian, but yeah, North American.
Yeah. It depends on which day they're doing it.
Not true.
Which we don't actually find out. Like, we could possibly look it up through the star dates, maybe.
Actually, look at a thing here, and it says it's sometime in November 2266.
Okay, so American Thanksgiving?
Yeah, I guess so. Well, I guess in sort of the timeline of the Star Trek universe, North America ends up being one of the less destroyed places after the whole Third World War.
I suppose so. Well, I don't even know what's going on. Like, at this point, we don't have a lot of Star Trek history. But if we go through what we know now, 50 years on for Star Trek history, we had the planet was taken over by superhumans.
Yep, eugenics wars.
Yeah, we'll get to that. There was all of the weird history stuff of... There were like the Bell Riots and the devolvement of American democracy.
Mm-hmm.
There was some sort of... all the weird stuff that was mentioned in Adventure at Farpoint, or Encounter at Farpoint. Drug soldiers, atomic holocaust, drug soldiers, weird courts full of strange people, and then the stuff we get to in First Contact, which is the Third World War, etc. So Thanksgiving lives.
Through all that cultural and political upheaval, Thanksgiving is still celebrated in the far future.
Yes, I guess it just had to be relatable to American audiences.
Yes,
because they needed a joke about turkeys.
Yep. Which I guess works.
I don't know much about Canadian Thanksgiving. Does it involve turkeys?
I would assume so. I really don't know. I know a number of Canadians, but I've never been there. I've never been there for Thanksgiving either.
Okay, so. At some point in the future, we have to ask someone from Canada whether their Thanksgiving involves turkeys.
Okay.
So it is a North American animal, so possibly.
Turkeys.
I feel like we've strayed from the point somewhat.
Oh, but I think it ending on a little bit of silliness might have been a good thing for a kind of episode.
Yeah, after this episode. So, Hizix, what do we have next week?
Well, is it Where No Man Has Gone Before?
Yes! The second pilot episode rolled awkwardly into the main series run.
Yep, just sort of there.
So how familiar are you with this before we go into things?
A little bit. I remember the uniforms are all like different.
Yeah, I watched it in school. Like a long time ago, I had a literary fiction class in high school that was very obsessed with Star Trek, so I saw both original pilots in that.
Nice.
But I haven't seen it since my idea to start rewatching Star Trek a few years ago that kind of fizzled out halfway through the first season. As far as I remember, it's just it's this episode basically.
It's this episode, but more different-y.
Yeah, it's this episode but older.
Is that the one where they also leave the galaxy or something like that?
Yeah, it is the Edge of the Galaxy episode. I remember that because it's the introduction of their interesting obsession with space barriers.
Yes. Those things that don't really exist.
Yeah. Well, that will be next week, so you can join us then to hear our thoughts on the original pilot.
Yes.
4 episodes in.
Next time on Watchers of Tomorrow, we'll pilot it up. Hooray! You been listening to Watchers of Tomorrow, a podcast on science fiction media. You may find Gepwin on youtube.com/Gepwin and on Twitter at Gepwin, spelled Gepwin. You may find me, Dr. Isix, on youtube.com/Dr. Isix, spelled DRIZIXS, and Twitter at IsixLP. Music is Waveform by DRKRN and Maury's Principle by the same. If you enjoyed our podcast, make sure to subscribe for more, and share the experience with your friends, families, enemies, and alien overlords. If you feel you are suffering from transporter syndrome, please be aware that the next time you step off the transporter, the you that is will no longer exist.